Well, that's some rather nice timing. Good evening, everybody, and just as the song is timing out, we get into the gameplay here, or the preface to the gameplay, I suppose. Welcome to the monthly open tournament for November. I know what month we're in. Let me check. We're in October. You know, I'm a man at a time. What can I say? But my name is Octavian, and I'm joined by nobody tonight, except you fine folks in the audience. So it's just going to be me on the mic going over, well, the League of Legends that we have to bring to you tonight. So let's get into it with some bands already on the table. Poppy, Cassiopeia, Rise. Somebody's been watching Worlds. Ilawi and Desir. Somebody's been watching a few months ago in the LCS, and also a good Ilawi. Though I am getting messages that we may have had a misclick on one of the bands. Let me try and sort that out real quick, folks. One moment. Alright, it seems like there's an agreement that's been come to between these two teams. The Azir ban is not actually an Azir ban, that's an Elise ban. The teams just agree not to pick Elise. Nobody was really planning on picking Azir anyways, so there's not too much of an impact there. Just a misclick from one of the players. Unfortunate, but it does happen sometimes, whether in-game or I suppose in the pre-game pick ban phase. You don't see fat fingers there as often, but every now and then I guess it's going to happen. As Karma and Victor are locked in against a Zac, I particularly like Karma against Zac, giving the speed buff to pretty much whoever needs it to get them out of harm's way, so should an elastic slingshot be attempting to put them in harm's way. Fizz has not seen the light of day in a long time. Been down in the depths of his watery grave ever since the sort of slow death of assassins that has led to champions such as Victor coming to the forefront. I'm assuming we're going to be seeing a resurgence of Fizzes and the likes soon, as next patch is set to be the Assassin rework, but I guess Malala wants to bring it out a little bit early. I mean, I suppose it could be the Jungle Fizz. It's a possibility, but seems pretty unlikely, as it will be the Fizz and the Jhin locked in alongside the Zac. We'll see what the answer is to that. And yeah, it looks like the teams have resolved that misclick issue from earlier. Thankfully, that's not going to be impeding the broadcast at all. Any more than it already did. I had to mute my mic for about 3 seconds. I hope nobody tuned out in disgust because of that. Oh, I would love to see an Ivern. I would absolutely love to see Ivern's eyebrows on the Rift. The man has some magnificent face bush. I think it's quite literally face bush with this guy, given that he's a plant. But I doubt we're going to see an Ivern. We have seen one before in Reverie, and it actually went quite well, but it wasn't one of these two teams here. These teams, by the way, are NYU versus Vexillium, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Esports. And NYU Team 2, I believe, though I may be incorrect there. NYU Squad V2, not Team V2, sorry, Squad V2, versus Vexillium Esports, and it is Vexillium on red with NYU on blue. I've got an older overlay because usually it's Effect, who's also usually joining me, who does the broadcasting, and so my streaming setup isn't as shiny as his, but it's going to do the job, I'm sure. Hecarim and Sivir, though, a lot of speed alongside a Karma. Wow, that's a composition and a half they got right there. Okay, Vexillium Esports drafting a very pointed composition. They are taking a spear and pointing it at their opponents, and that spear is being wielded by a terrifying half-man, half-ghost, half-horse. There are 3 halves involved, but the math still adds up to a very, very scary jungle pick. Yorick would be so much fun. Please do it. Please do it. We have seen a Yorick before as well in Reverie. One of the reasons why I really enjoy casting at this level is because the level of skill is still quite good. Here's a story. I'm going to tell you guys a story. So, my family is obsessed with baseball, and they used to go, I lived in Boston for a little while, and they used to go to Boston Red Sox games all the time, and it was super duper expensive. And then we found out there's an amateur team called the Pawtucket Sox that plays right nearby. I have no idea what like really good baseball looks like as compared to like really good but not quite pro level baseball looks like. So from then on we just went to the Paw Sox games. I mean, yeah, the Peanuts weren't quite as good, but we still got to see some really impressive, from our point of view, baseball while paying a lot less. And it's the same sort of situation here, where these players may not be quite at the pro level, but they're good enough that you're going to get some really impressive stuff out of them, and you don't have to pay anything. So that's nice. And I guess the metaphor kind of falls apart at the end there, but it's still an interesting point to be made. Like, there's sort of diminishing returns once you reach that top, like, 1%, 0.5% even, of the player base, where it's just absolutely honing those smaller skills. You know, there's no more room to be gained working on your basics and stuff. You have to then branch out into those more tenuous areas of skill. But both teams have fully locked in their composition. It will be the Yorick that I was so excited about, so I am still excited to see that. I am interested as to where the lane situation's going to be. It looks like it's a double teleport composition, so that would be a Fizz mid then. Fizz historically has done decently against Victor. Yeah, there's no smite. As is being pointed out, there is no smite. Okay, there's a smite at the very last second. That was worrying. Ganker is going to be choosing to run Smite on his jungle pick. You know, a bold choice, but I'm going to have to go with him on that one. I think it's probably the right choice, probably, in the end. And yeah, as you can see on your screen, 10 players, 10 champions, 2 compositions, 2 teams, and 2 minutes, 40 seconds until we can see them all in action. For those 2 minutes and 40 seconds, we're going to listen to some great music instead of my voice rambling on. And then, don't worry, you'll get to listen to my voice ramble on quite a bit once we get onto the Rift. Give us just a few moments here, folks, and we'll be right back. Good evening, everybody. As I'm sure you can hear in the background, and as you'll see in just a moment when I swap over the overlay, we are into game, and speaking of my overlay, it is a little bit out of date, so let me edit that for you guys really quick. Get the correct team names up there. That one should be NYU on blue side, and Reverie Esports on red, so that's going to serve as our intro right there, as I visually demonstrate for you which team is playing on which side here in our first match of the night of this monthly buy-in tournament. This is the big boys here at Reverie. Not to belittle the weekly tournaments, they are quite fun in their own rights. But the prize for one of our weekly Saturday night tournaments is to get into this one. This is the one you want to be winning, and this is where we filter all the best teams that come into Reverie. And trust me, we get a lot of teams. They get filtered down into this every month for you guys to watch butt heads. And I've got some pretty high expectations for these players, for these teams. Particularly, I gotta say, for Vexillium. I know I'm supposed to be unbiased as a caster, and I definitely am. I would be happy with either team winning. But I have seen Vexillium perform. I saw Vexillium perform last night, and they were a solid lineup. And I've never seen NYU perform. They won their way into the tournament on a week when I was on an adventure in the southern half of our fine globe down in Nicaragua. That was a fun time, but that's a story for a different time. So I've got high hopes for both teams, for interesting League of Legends, one way or another. But particularly, I have an eye on Vexillium's lineup here tonight, as we get pretty well into the laning phase. And, let me get all the players appropriately aligned as well. That is Fizz mid and Jin 80 carry. Always a little bit frustrating when the players don't do this in the lobby, but you know, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not really angry at anybody. I would never be angry at any of our fine players here at Reverie Esports. That would be uncouth of me. Malala coming forward for that guaranteed crit. The binding gonna land as well, and that's heal popped from TSM lane at Apex, who has to flash away. An advantage decidedly gained for NYU squad's bottom lane, who already had something of an advantage in the laning phase, I would say, with the Jhin versus Sivir matchup. Jhin does quite well there, though Spell Shield is rather useful, I guess, against such a spell-laden AD carry, the likes of Jhin. And Nami, though, is very, very solid alongside Jhin, and the range advantage definitively goes to him. So going to be rough for the Sivir here, especially summonerless. Meanwhile, we return to the mid lane, where Maulface is taking quite a bit of damage, having his face mauled about a bit himself. Crypt running out of mana, though, is not able to keep the fight going. Meanwhile, top lane, NSFW is running out of mana himself, and there's a few little ghoulings on his tail. And yes, NYU does stand for New York University, NYU Squad V2. As Apex continues to be bullied away underneath his turret. This is really rough for the bottom lane here of Vex. Okay, well, it just got a lot rougher. Bubble lands in the fourth crit to follow. Suddenly, Sivir is no longer with us. Meanwhile, top lane, though, we're seeing an attempt at an equalization. Sprinkles is going to lock the horsey into his pen and back away just fine. Oh man, lane could be in some trouble. There's another bubble landing. Kess is the one tanking up the turret, is going to be followed up with some easily landed CC from Malala. Aqua Blue's around the corner. Gromp chasing after him. TSM lane's going to flash, pardon me, after Kess, and Aqua Blue will tank the last few turret shots as well he should. Zac passive serving quite a good use, getting his team out of there safe and securing another kill. NYU off to a roaring start this game. That's going to be quite nice for them, particularly given that the kills are going over to this Jhin lane. Jhin spikes insanely hard in the mid-game, and that's only going to be all the more powerful with a little bit of extra gold in his pockets, provided he has those. And he's definitely got a cape, can't quite tell. He's got some sort of mechanical leg thing going on as well. This is a very complex character. But, you know, I assume that's on purpose. Fitting with the backstory, really. As Crypt continues to shove up Maulface, kind of how you would expect this lane to go early on. But Fizz is a resilient creature, as are many creatures of the ocean. And he should be able to bounce back decently well once he's got an item and a level 6 to his name. We'll see if Ganker can make anything happen, though, as he is hanging out near the mid lane. Ganker did try for that gank earlier on, but other than that, he's just kind of been hanging out in his jungle. He's at least out farming Aqua Blue. That's kind of to be expected in the matchup. You know, Hecarim is a bit of a power farmer himself, and Zac really doesn't have that namesake. Nice trade from Maulface. That was nimbly done. And now Sprinkles is coming into his own in the top lane as well. Able to pick up some component items past that Doran shield, and he's actually got a 10 CS lead now on Sav, whose time of winning this matchup is soon to be over. Once Yorick gets a few tanky items, he becomes an almost unstoppable force. Gonna lock Sav up there. Maulface dashing away to a minion. He actually takes a few more minion autos as well. Flash is available for Crypt, but he's not opting into it. Fearing how slippery Fizz could be. Thinking he might trade his summoner for nothing, and I think that might be a wise choice. Oh, whoa, there it is! Crypt flashing into the turret for it. You know, it just wasn't dangerous enough for him before. He just needed it to be that much more dangerous, and he did go for it, and it worked out pretty well. Ganker's presence gave him the confidence he needed to go for the kill. And it was confidence well-deserved, I suppose. That's going to help him in that lane immensely. I still, though, feel like Malphace's Fizz is going to be alright. Being a killback is never good. Being 5 CS down, never good. But there are worse champions to have those disadvantages on. Ooh, that was an interesting direction that Yorick went. Okay. Ganker coming in from the side, looking to try and knock Sprinkles up against the wall and hold him there for a little bit more damage. Knocks him back towards the turret somehow through some fluke of spaghetti-born strange geometry. And Soft continues to beat away in the turret. Not really much accomplished, though, against the Yorick here. Looks like he's doing just fine and dandy. Actually up still in terms of CS. TSM lane looking for some vision control is not quite going to get sniped out there. You know, let's take a step back and let's look at what we've got to deal with here moving forward. Sprinkles getting comboed again, and we may not have a moment to take a step back as action is happening in the solo lanes, but we can find the moment nonetheless. There's always a moment for analysis. And I'm really not entirely sure what to do with the analysis since we have action going on. Malphite's going to be stunned underneath the turret. He flashes away, but Crypt gets the kill with an auto attack following a turret shot as well. And, you know, I just like shouting so much. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to do that. It was fun. And that's going to be Crypt, like, catapulting ahead in that lane. That is really quite rough for Malphite. I've said a few times that Fizz is resilient and he can bounce back and he'll be just fine. I've been really optimistic, but, man, 2 kills back? 10 CS down? That might be too much. There's a certain amount that not even a Fizz can go back from. Spell Shield a little late from Apex. Not going to be available to Spell Shield out the W, so he has to sidestep that. Oh, man. You guys know what Sivir thinks a goose is? I don't know what Sivir thinks a goose is. Anybody think they can guess this one? Sivir thinks a goose is a better duck. Eh? Eh? Alright, please direct your complaints to William Fernando, the owner of Reverie Esports. Please direct all of your tweets to get me fired and off the bench over there. I apologize, I will not do it again, I promise. Malala coming in on to TSM lane. They both have to flash away, but the flash forward from Kess looking for the bubble. There's the curtain call coming down. Body blocks from Apex to keep his support alive, and at the cost of quite a bit of resources. Flexilium's bottom lane do make it out alive, but only just. They did trade back, though, in terms of resources. At least Kess's flash and some ultis. Certainly not worth it in the end, though. Just in terms of straight cooldown trades. Malala still exercising huge control over this lane. Something I worried about from that first blood. It's just going to be dominance through and through for the Jhin pick now, and it's not going to get any easier for a long time to come. The gap is going to continue to grow until we reach, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes from now at the very least. Unless something absolutely drastic happens. Perhaps that drastic thing could be Crypt roaming down. I mean, usually it's the Fizz that you think roams out of the mid lane away from the Victor to go bot and try and get some kills, but the Victor's 2-0 up. He's got a 20 CS lead. Maybe he could be the one to make those moves across the map. Malala and Kess are shoving almost constantly. With Ganker speeding in as well, they have a really good chance to make something happen, I think. As the Maiden is summoned here onto NSFW, it will continue to chase him. It prioritizes champions if they're within range. NSFW has to be really careful here. Maiden alone could have killed him. And he realizes the danger and he's going to back off. However, that does seed the lane further still to Sprinkles as Yorick. He's going to happily take it. Continue to grow his now pretty sizable CS lead and take a bit of damage on the turret as well. This is the new Yorick in action. He is a lane monster through and through. As speaking of lane monsters, Malala continues to be one bottom side. That fourth shot has so much just threat Ganker continuing to focus up top. This is his third gank up here. We'll see if he can finally make something work with it. He charges out of the prison he was shoved into by Sprinkles, but Sprinkles just refuses to go down. He's healing so much off of the corrupting pot, or just the health potion, pardon me, and the repeated usages of his Q. It's a double kill now for Malface, who teleported in topside. He's going to get out with barely any health left as well. Crypt is flashing forwards. He's going to at least salvage one kill out of this mess, but a mess it remains. Chaos Storm tailing Sprinkles off to the side, but it withers away before it can accomplish anything else. Now Crypt is looking to hide out in the bush. He gets spotted up by some wards. Aqua Blue does have the cell division ready. Sprinkles is going to get exhausted. Crypt turns around. He doesn't have a death passive to fall back on, though, and he gets shut down on his trip to top lane. And Sprinkles still makes it out. The guy who took the start of the fight, took the brunt of everything on this Yorick pick. He's just fine. He goes back to push with the wave. He doesn't care. Oh, man. New Yorick is so much fun. If you have a very strange and disturbed sense of what fun is. And, meanwhile in the bottom lane, Malala is still going aggressive here. Ganker, though, has roamed down to the bottom side, and I like this choice a lot more than going top. This is the lane that needs it so much more. And Ganker is going to secure 2 kills for his team down here. A very good choice coming bottom lane, I think. A little risky. Apex and lane did both drop insanely low. But Ganker was there to play the front line for them. And the kills went down pretty darn quick. At the very least, Malface is hanging out in the river. We'll see if he can find a kill. Apex is basing. Apex, perhaps unaware that Malface was there, goes down with the shop open, I'm assuming. Either that or he just didn't want to give it any sort of try to get out of there. I mean, honestly, he probably still would have died. By the time that Fizz was within range to see him, even just walking away probably wouldn't have been enough. But still, fighting back is usually your better option. As NSFW is attempting to do that up here, but he's run himself dry on the good old blue juice. No more mana left to fight his battles. He's getting some back from the hammer stance. Every auto attack in melee form as Jace does give you back a small amount of flat mana. But not going to be enough to match off against Sprinkles' Yorick, who has decidedly pulled ahead in this lane at this point. Maybe for the first 4 or 5 minutes or so, he wasn't in control, but he waited it out, and now he's not giving Sov any opportunities to come back. Hopping on in there with the ulti, he's going to throw some of his little ghoulings at him, lock him up in the cage, and finish him off with a smack of the shovel. Meanwhile, Crypt now getting focused in the mid lane as he's going to go down. I'm assuming he turns around and nearly gets the kill onto Malface. A nicely placed gravity wall stunning up both of his offending opponents. But he just doesn't have what it takes to get the 1-for-1, sadly. And now turrets will likely fall potentially in more than one lane here, as Malala has worked this one down nearly to the bone, or to the, I don't know, whatever would be analogous in a structure to bone, to the structural beams inside the turrets, those things that are providing the glow underneath, holding it up. And Sprinkles continues his push, no reason not to, really. We've already seen what happens when they try and gank this man. Bad things, and not for Sprinkles. You know, I gotta say, a lot of this is just down to, like, a good portion of it. A good portion of the reason why NYU looks so dominant this game is down to the bottom lane. After that first blood, Malala has put this lane in a stranglehold, and Apex has had absolutely no chance to come back. That's somewhat down to the matchup and somewhat down to the early misplay, giving him that first blood. And then a good portion of it as well comes from the fact that I think Ganker just had way too much focus topside, and never really attempted to get back control of the bottom lane. Never really attempted maybe to snowball Crypt even further. Crypt maybe could have roamed. Like, they just kind of played way too passively. They were too relinquished to what they were put into. But Malala is now going down as Ganker renews once again some focus towards the bottom lane. This is his second gank down here and his second success. I hope that 100% success rate encourages him to continue, as it does seem to be the right play for the side of Vexillia. Malface going to get exhausted as Crypt turns back around with some damage of his own. They're going to trade about evenly, but Malface didn't have to burn a summoner there, so evenly in health, but not evenly in resources. As now Vexillium is desperately looking for a turret, but they haven't got very many minions left to take it down with, and a teleport is calling in some help. It's going to be Sprinkle showing up to the bottom lane, taking a little bit of a break from his continual shove top. even stealing away that red buff earlier, as we saw. And Aqua Blue showing up as well will put the Nyx to this turret going down, and may in fact bring down Ganker. Show the Waters is going to land. Gravity Well drops, but it is way too slow. Not going to be stopping Maulface as he flashes over the wall. Lane gets the kill with the Soul Flare snipe. Maulface does go down as a 1-for-1 trade so far. Crypt now backing away from Aqua Blue, who does not have nearly the damage required to bring down the Victor. But Sprinkles... no. Oh, that's always unfortunate. Sprinkles smacks his face into a wall with a overeager flash, but Apex may have been a little overeager, turning back around for some damage onto Sprinkles there. Now Sprinkles is chasing him under 2 towers. He's going to be backing out now, realizing this could be a little bit of a mistake. And it's still a 1-for-1 trade after all that messiness. Alright. And let's slow down for a moment, take a gander at some potentially of these item builds as they're starting out. It's a Hex Tech Gunblade. Hex Tech Gunblade from Maulface. I like that choice. You know, you don't see a lot of fizzes these days, but he does take huge advantage of the recently reworked Hex Tech items, particularly that extra damage on an auto attack that it gives you every once in a while. Really nice, because Fizz does work in a lot of autos to his combos. I believe it would also proc on his Q, so you can get a lot of extra burst out of that, in addition to the active. I don't know, maybe we're in for a Fizz resurgence once the Assassin rework comes around. I don't know if Fizz is getting any changes himself, but just the general fact that Assassins will be in vogue may be enough to bring him back. Maulface is certainly bringing him back with style. I mean, out of his entire team, I'd say he's probably had the roughest laning phase, but he's also got quite a few kills to his name, so those are mainly for roams, but that's the right idea when you're behind on Fizz in lane. You know, when you're up against the ranged versus melee matchup in the early game, you fall behind a bit. You want to roam the sidelines. You want to chase down people like Sov NSW, who's just been so bullied in this top lane. And, I mean, the bullying continues, as now Apex is way overconfident here. I'm surprised Malala and Kess aren't taking this fight, but they know that Ganker's coming in from the back, and they understand that this is Hecarim's lane now. Oh, but Kess gets out. He gets out in the back of an ebb and flow. Ganker thought he had the kill and he backed away. Oh, but he's going for it again. He doesn't want to give this one up, so he's... no, he's going to turn around. Okay, he turns around. Now Sprinkles in the mid lane. We're seeing the Fizz and the Yorick swap roles, but I don't know. It may not work out for Sprinkles as Chaos Storm just has to take one more time, but it fizzles out. Oh, okay, the death rays there. That was so very close to being so very frustrating for Crypt. I still probably would be frustrated. Even after getting the kill, it still would have felt like BS that the Chaos Storm didn't pick it up. Oh, pardon me. And, I mean, I would say NYU is still decidedly in the lead here, but it is getting kind of messy. This TSM lane is pushing for some vision control. Finds more green bloblets than he was hoping for. Blue's going to be donated to Crypt, and we return to Quiet on the Rift again. And yes, NYU does stand for New York University, though this is NYU Squad V2, so this may be their secondary team. If logic holds true. Curtain call from Malala. We get to listen to some beautiful music. But none of the shots really connect. He was trying to snipe out Crypt under the turret there, but he got outside of the range of the ulti. But you know who's not outside of the range of Maulface? Apex isn't. Baiting time lands onto Apex, and despite all the best efforts of Lane on that Karma, he simply was not able to keep the Sivir alive. And in addition to the 80 carry going down, so doth the Dragon, and perhaps so doth the support. Flash away. That's a summoner burned, just for face-checking the wrong area of the jungle. I gotta feel a little bad for TSM Lane, who's not been able to have the kind of, well, lane, I suppose, that he wanted, picking this aggressive support like a Karma. And then going back on the First Blood, losing out in terms of the 80 carry matchup particularly. And just not being able to have anything really of an impact this game. Despite some well-placed Soul Flares. I mean, we saw that snipe earlier onto Maulface. Mechanically, he's been playing well, but it's a two-way street down in bottom lane. And the support can't do it all. And that's not to say that it's all like Apex's fault as well. Yes, it was a mispositional error to be caught out by the bubble and give up First Blood and all that, and then maybe he just played a little bit too safely in the lane past that. But you got to put some of that down to the fact that Ganker wasn't there to assist when it was most needed, perhaps, or the matchup is simply bad for the Sivir, or any number of other factors. In League of Legends, a game this complicated, there is never one single factor you can ascribe it to. As I try to tell people I play with in solo queue, but they almost never listen. For some reason, Aatrox AD carry is always the problem. However, Aquablue going to the back line is going to be shredded down, actually. He doesn't pop. They just let him almost walk out of that fight. Now he's popped into the Cell Division passive. Sprinkles is going to be pulled back. Ganker finishing off Aquablue as he tries to reconfigure himself, but Malphase is here potentially for the cleanup. The exhaust comes down. NSW brings the hammer down as well, and Malphase is not going to be playing Janitor today. He dashes away to the jungle camp, but he dies nonetheless. A bubble will get Kess to safety. And that's actually a pretty darn good team fight for Vex. Apex managing to stay alive, which is really a change from the last few fights we've seen him in. Again, whether to his fault or not. And that's going to translate into a outer mid lane turret, into 3 kills, I believe, to 2. So it was a bit messy, but still in their favor. And potentially some more damage in the middle inner turret. Yeah, NSFW doesn't have the team, doesn't have any mana. Did seem a little bit overconfident to go for that. But yeah, here we are, just past 20 minutes. Only 500 gold separating these teams. And at various different points, it's looked pretty solid, mainly for NYU. But I can't count Vexillium out of this game. And I shouldn't. I shouldn't even consider counting them out of this game, because they've had some pretty darn good performances. Crypt's laning phase was solid. He's still 6-2. He's still built some core items for this Victor. And, you know, you never really are able to shut down a Fizz entirely, so I can't blame him too much for that. That's Fizz's job. He comes out of laning phase and he's still able to do this, regardless of whether or not he managed to win the laning phase. He can delete Sivers. That's what Fizz does best. The spell shield not serving too much use when Fizz does half your health with an enhanced auto attack. He's a little ridiculous. Just a little bit. I can't say I'm too unhappy that Fizz isn't in the meta anymore, if I'm entirely honest. But yeah, I mean, Vexillium have had the right idea on a few occasions, but the reason why they're not winning is because they've also had the wrong idea on a good few occasions. And I think one of the wrongest ideas they had to continue to push this particular train of thought is Ganker's insistence on trying to get Sav ahead up in the top lane and trying to shut down Sprinkles' Yorick. It was just too much invested for too little return. Malphase is diving onto Ganker here, not his usual target. Apex might be able to hunt him down after that one, but he is slippery himself, and Aquablue's coming in from the side, so Apex won't be able to finish off any sort of kills, but Ganker does get out. And that does come at the cost of Malphase's ult, albeit not too terribly long of a cooldown. And it was traded for on the hunt, so I'd say it's alright nonetheless for Malphase, even though the kill didn't go down. The main threat now that NYU has to deal with that I don't think they have an answer for is Yorick. They can answer Malphase by having good vision and not solo pushing lanes, and so not giving him a chance to 1v1 anybody. Okay. Aquablue looking for the drive-by smite, or fly-by smite, I suppose. I don't think he got it yet. It was given over to Victor. A valiant attempt, nonetheless. Interesting thing you can do on Zac there. You can smite while you're midair, so you can leap over something like that and steal it. But yeah, while they have a strategical way to play around the Fizz, I don't think they have a really good way to play around this Yorick. They've got good enough wave clear from Crypt to hold him at bay, but they kind of need Crypt should a team fight break out. And they've got a really team fight centric comp with a Sivir, a Karma, and a Hecarim, all like wanting to just rush forward at people. Even the acceleration gate from Sav's Jace, like playing into that. So the fact that like their best wave clear, I'd say, in the Victor is the one they don't want to send to stop the continual split push that will be a Yorick might be a problem for them. Though I suppose Apex actually is pretty decent wave clear in Sivir, and he does need the farm, so that might be a sort of a stopgap solution for them. Should Yorick decide to split push. Right now it seems like it's Malphase who wants to be doing that, and they really have their pick of the laners here. Since they did go the double teleport composition, they can send either Fizz or Yorick. Yorick would be better at actually like taking down the towers, but Fizz is a little bit harder to contest for them. I think it's quite clever actually. Lane is going to get bound up there and CC'd halfway to death, all the way to death as Malala brings him down. He will transform into an exploding rose. Not what he wanted to be for Halloween. Flash over the wall from Crypt as the fourth bullet will land onto Apex, and a lot of other things will land onto Crypt. He actually turns around, he gets the kill onto the Nami. Perhaps not the best trade, but at least he's getting something out of it. Now Apex is being chased, his tail between his legs by Sprinkles. He'll finish him off there with the Cone of Doom. Ganker going to be continuing to chase after Aqua Blue, though. The wet noodle fight continues. As actually Aqua Blue gets interrupted out of his elastic slingshot, he flashes over the wall, but he got procced into his passive. Ganker, realizing this is going to turn the corner, try and finish off this kill, but Aqua Blue gets a bunch of health back before he revives. Now NSFW does have that magic damage shield, but it's not enough to save him from Maulface. Might have been enough, indeed was enough, to get some revenge with the help of a friendly turret, though. Action all over the map, and once again, not really falling too decidedly to one team or the other. That looked really good for NYU at the start. They got a great pick onto the Karma, followed up by splitting Crypt off from the rest of his team, but they weren't able to execute quite as quickly and fluidly as they needed to, and that gave an opening for Crypt to turn around and get some great damage down. Admittedly, trading with Kess, not the best, as I think I mentioned during the course of the action, but it's better than nothing, and it even gave Ganker an opening into the backline to continue to chase down Aqua Blue and get his passive, and steal a red buff to boot. So, again, the game continues evenly, and I know that I sound like a broken record at this point, but it's messy, and that's what I both love and am kind of worried for about these two teams. This is the lower half of the bracket, by the way. We do see these teams coming in. In this Open, we had 4 teams who came in, 1 for each week, I believe, plus 1 buyout. I'm not entirely sure, but we did have 4 teams starting with this tournament, and these are seeds 3 and 4. So you would expect a little bit of messier gameplay since we are down on the bottom of the bracket rather than up at the top, which is currently being played, I believe, and is inhabited by Fiesta Esports and Ignitus Esports, both teams that we've seen put up some pretty brilliant performances here at Reverie, so deserving of those first and second seeds, but that it does not mean that there's anything to sneeze at down here. Spell Shield going to be blocking some damage from that shovel, and Apex is just constantly being bullied this game. Every time he goes for some farm, he either finds a Yorick or a Fizz waiting for him. And it doesn't really matter which one, they both seem to be able to kill him almost equally quickly. Yorick kills him a little bit slower, but is an impenetrable object in the course of doing so. Whereas Maulface can just delete people like Lane is finding out right here. The exhaust a little bit too late to save his life. Even if it had come out earlier, I think he was still gone to us. Off beyond the pale. For 28 seconds or so, at least. Death is something of an inconvenience in the world of League of Legends, but not really much more than that. It's a financial inconvenience more than anything. There's the death bush, though, as Sov NSFW has to flash away with the benefit of his AD carry. He may just get enough speed to make it out. Malala now getting flanked on by Crypt and Ganker, who have taken a very strange path into this fight, but it may be a successful one, as they do manage to bring down the opposing AD carry. Now Apex looking to toss in as many boomerangs as he can, but staying on the edges of the fight. He knows he's incredibly squishy, and he will go down in the blink of an eye, just like that, as Sprinkles blinks both eyes in his direction. Aqua Blue now shutting down the Hecarim with 20 health left! As Victor Yorick steps back with about the same. Oh my god. Sprinkles not quite dodging away from the Soul Flare, but even empowered, it wasn't enough to finish him off. And this Yorick is just an impenetrable wall of health and healing at this point. Look at this with the Ocean Drake and his natural regen, and of course whenever he lands a Q he's going to heal quite a bit as well, as you see right there. He's going to just go back to pushing the lane. He's a walking fountain. He doesn't care. I mean, there's not really much that a support Karma can do to stop this guy, and he's already back over 1,000 hit points. He's run the gamut from single digits to quadra digits within the space of a minute. And, I mean, that's just the power of the Yorick pick. It's so relentless. It may be slow, and it may not do a ton of damage all at once, unlike perhaps Sov's Jace, but it is sure. And slow and steady does win the race, I'm told. Some turtley fellows told me that. Ganker is going to charge right into Maulface in the jungle. Try and charge past him as well. We'll see if he can make it out with his life. And all 4 hooves intact. Apex turns the corner to help out Ganker. The double bubble! What does it mean, though? Well, it means a follow-up from the Zac and a follow-up again from Cass as he drops down some gnarly waves. But Ganker is still going to be able to make it out, despite the CC train that just rolled him over. The price of his ticket on the CC train was almost all of his health, though, so a little bit steep, I'd say. And this is going to give some free reign in the jungle here as Sprinkles continues what could only be called a mid lane split push. Not often the lane you see being split, but while the rest of his team is busy, he's getting that one shoved up. He's done some work on that turret already. It'd be interesting to see him rotate down bottom. He does have the teleport up. I think after shoving this wave out, it would be the right idea for him to rotate bottom and his team to go top to spread Vexillium as thin as they possibly can. Now that they have vision control on top side, they could even back off into the jungle and sort of scare Vexillium into coming into the Fog of War with the threat of a Baron. Sprinkles is getting chased down, though. They think they can handle this Yorick. Sovereign FSW, though, he changes his mind pretty quickly once the Maiden comes out. Ganker not quite getting snared there by the Jhin. Chilling Smite slows up Maulface, but Maulface is going to flash forward for the kill. He's not giving up that easily. As now Aqua Blue looks for an engagement in this pretty much dead vision jungle for Vexillium. Malala is actually getting critted out. Apex has some decent damage now, but he just about survives and brings down the Sivir. And now Sprinkles is looking to bring down the house as he shoves up mid lane, which he seems to have mistaken for top lane. He should never have left. He's just moved. He'll be back in top lane soon enough, I'm sure. He's taking a small vacation, a leave of absence, a sabbatical to the mid lane, really. Yeah, there he is. He's coming back top. He's rejoining the team. He's back to his true abode, the split pushing top laner. And honestly, it was I don't know if it was the best idea to try and engage onto the Yorick. It's such a hard problem for Vexillium, because a lot of that you can put down to not having vision on the top side and being too far into their own jungle and getting engaged on by the Zac around the corner. That's where a lot of those kills came from, with Aqua Blue catching out, I believe it was Apex in lane, after Ganker had already been caught by Maulface. So it was really just catches all across the board. But devoting that much resources to the Yorick is almost never going to end well. But not devoting any resources to the Yorick is never going to end well either, and it's the eternal question of split pushing. And I really don't think the Vexillium have the answer this game. And I can't blame them. I can't think of a solution to this either. Victor would have the wave clue to be able to deal with Yorick, but as I said earlier, then Victor's not in your team fight, and you are a really team fight centric composition. You have a Hecarim, you have a Karma, you need to pick these fights. But how do you pick the fights when the enemy team won't let you? Maybe a Baron play. Maybe pull them out of the lanes, get their attention somewhere else. But they're far enough behind at this point, they're almost 10k gold back, that could just be asking for death, honestly. And we've seen NYU is perfectly willing to give them quite a bit of death. They've got a lot of portions of it. They're giving it away for free, this game. So, I don't know. We'll see whether or not Vexillium can solve this seemingly intractable issue. Because I think the first step is the step they're going for right now, which is trying to regain vision in their own jungle. But it is a highly risky endeavor, as Aqua Blue in particular doesn't want to give it to them. Maybe they can just stall out this game till past 30 minutes and go for an Elder Drake take, since they can get vision on the bottom side much more easily than they could on the top. Given that there's no emphasis being placed on the bottom side right now from NYU, but that does mean giving up this Baron potentially, as Sprinkles is just trying to play defensive lineman for his team, as the Baron is now down below 2,000 hit points. It's gonna be taken, rather, by the Fizz, not stolen away by Ganker, but Crypt is going to finish off Kess. Again, the support going down at the start of the fight. Maulface is on a rampage, though, but this is actually looking pretty good for Vex, who still have 4 men strong. Apex actually flashing after Maulface. He does manage to at least trade 1 for 1, but that's not the ending I thought we'd see for that Sivir. And that's a decent fight for Vexillium, but it comes at the cost of a Baron. They have to make a move now. It is so unfortunate for them that Elder Drake isn't available. That would have made the trade much more palatable if they were able to roam down to the bottom side of the map and pick that up for themselves. But they could still get something out of this in terms of global objectives by going for a secondary push in the mid lane. They've only got to really deal with Malala right now, and he's not going to give them anything to deal with. He'll back off. Okay. Again, like the word I can think of to describe this game, that play, is messy. Like, NYU, they had the advantage there, and Sprinkles being alone trying to fend off 5 people by himself, it maybe wasn't the right call, I have to say. He dies pretty quickly, even as tanky as he is, in the middle of 5 members of the enemy team, and he's not going to buy that much time. Baron got decently low, but they were still able to show up, and it actually went to, I believe, Maulface, so it wasn't even a smite secure from Aqua Blue, so there was a real chance there of Ganker getting that, if his execution had been a little bit better. So that's really worrying for NYU. And then, of course, they lose the team fight, they lose a turret, and they cede some ground here where they don't really need to. They're left with only the single Baron buff now, as it was only Malala who survived. The gold, of course, is still theirs. But they're back to their old ways of vision control on the top side of the map. This seems to be NYU's sort of operetta... Mirandai? No, that's not it. I should just not try and do Italian. Latin. Or Italian, honestly. I don't speak either of them. Modus operandi, that's what I'm looking for. Modus operandi. Their preferred method. As that, I believe, translates to. And they continue to shove up the top lane. I feel like they should be making use of Sprinkles more than they are right now. Sprinkles is just kind of sitting here occasionally queuing a minion. Yes, he's tanky, he's a threat to Apex, particularly if you can get onto him, but if the teamfight is played correctly, they have so much peel with Apex and with Karma. They should never let Sprinkles get onto anybody, and now, in fact, he is going to be melted out before being able to accomplish really all that much. The Maiden is going to melt as well, but his 1-for-1 trade so far as Aqua Blue in the black lines is causing havoc, and Apex falls. Crypt, the only damage dealer left for his team. We'll see if he can carry the weight of the rest of this fight. Malala is untouched in the back lines and still belting out some decent DPS on this Jhin. Turning his attention to the inhibitor, he's going to bring that down, secure the objective for his team as they continue to push forward. It was a little bit on edge there for NYU, but it was decently clean towards the end, particularly from Malala. That was a very well-played team fight from the Jhin. And then Nexus turret will go down as well. Ganker speeding out of the base, though, is looking for some sort of engage, but they seem to have predicted this move. They're going to melt him down before he can accomplish anything. Malala's going to get bursted. Chaos Storm wasn't available, though. So, there's no kill for Crypt. That's got to feel bad. An ulti would have meant a kill, perhaps even more than one there. Then again, you gotta realize the reason they were so low in the first place was partially due to the earlier Chaos Storm, so. Now we're gonna see NYU back out. Again, regain control of the top side of the map. And I'd presume they put a little bit of focus on bottom side now that they've got the inhibitor down, so they've got free pressure up there with the super minion. They've got an Elder Drake spawning in just under a minute here. And they can pressure in on the bottom lane and spread their enemies really thin that way. It would make the most sense. Potentially even sending Sprinkles to the mid lane to split push by himself. I know I've been harping on split pushing this game, but when you run a composition, particularly with a Yorick and 2 teleports, it just feels like such a waste to not split push very often. They've done it once or twice in the mid game. We saw like 2 or 3 good solo kills from Maulface as a result of split pushing, and if that's the tack they want to go with, that seems fine to me. I would honestly put the Yorick in the side lane and the Fizz in a team fight because he's much more of a threat to the backlines that way, but so Apex is going to get caught by 1 bullet, 2 bullet, 3 bullet, and Malala's on a rampage. The last one doing most of the work, and it does have that guaranteed crit and even a health execute. And Apex didn't have the spell shield available. He had used it earlier. Unfortunate for him. Unfortunate. Eh? No? No? Okay. Well, I tried. There's nobody here to laugh at my jokes anyways. I can make as many bad jokes as I want. I am all alone! Elder Drake going down, though, as there is some focus on the bottom side of the map now, and we see NYU getting that vision control beforehand as well, guaranteeing this pick, sending Sprinkles to the side lane. I want to see them go mid now. You know, I want to see them split up. They are able to brute force down these turrets. You know, it's not necessarily a horrible strategy. They are higher in gold, they have the better team fight, they've executed well in a lot of these team fights, particularly Malala. So just pushing for team fights, it's worked out for them, but compositionally, it shouldn't be. Providing these teams are both even and there's not a huge gold deficit, I would actually say in a team fight, the team with the Hecarim, the Sivir, the Karma might win, and we might see that right here, as now Sprinkles is going to go down at the start of this fight. Crypt is on a killing spree, and Victor is a team-fighting legend as far as champions go. Malala, though, is backing out, and again, he's kind of untouched. More focus needs to go into this Jhin here. if Exilium wants to win these fights. Malphite is going to get bursted. He does have Playful Trickster to back out, though. Aqua Blue going to charge up the Stretching Strike, and he's actually going in on it as the turret falls, but he's going to pay for that, at least with a flash and maybe with his life. Popping into the Cell Division, he's going to go down. And these... Oh, no, the teleport comes in. Saving Aqua Blue's life, he's going to revive! But not for very long. That was hype, but didn't really end in too much. But, like, it doesn't need to be this messy from NYU. You have the Yorick, you have a double teleport. You have a Fizz that nobody on the enemy team can 1v1. Just send the Fizz or the Yorick to a different lane and send everyone else to one of them and 4-1 split push. And don't take fights. Just sit back and don't ever take fights until, like, Malala lands a ton of damage or Malphite gets a pick. There's no reason to try and team fight a team that is so much better put together for team fighting. Oh no, Apex. Apex is dead. I don't even have to cast what's going on here. Apex is dead. Or maybe not. Oh my god! He spell shielded the Chum the Waters, he flashed away! I assumed face checking into a Fizz was a death sentence for an AD carry. But Apex, well, he's not disappointing. At least not anymore. That laning phase was a little bit rough. But he's not disappointing in that particular 1v1. And that's Fizz down. That's huge for them. They've had to burn a ton of resources on Fizz in every single one of these fights. And it's allowed Malala to sort of run rampant because Ganker has been ulting the Fizz, or Crypt has been burning all of his burst onto the Fizz, or something like that. So if a fight breaks out right now, which it doesn't look like it will, it's rather quiet actually, mainly due to that downed inhibitor, it's keeping Apex sort of prisoner on the top side, Malala might get a little more focus than he's comfortable with. As Kess is now the one face checking into the wrong bush, and the support goes down. Crypt is on a rampage. This is the way that Vexillium comes back into this game. If they're given picks, if they're given team fights in particular. Because I think compositionally they are more suited for those. And Baron has started off. They melt this thing now. Apex is a damage threat now. Sov does good damage as well. And they've got the damage top laner in the form of NSFW. Aqua Blue is going to get stunned up, but it's not enough to keep him at bay forever. However, they knock him back once again, and there's the secure Baron going over to Vexillium. This would be an absolutely insane comeback if they managed to make it back. I mean, this game has been messy all around. Don't get me wrong, they were never like 20 kills down. But it's been grim for a little while for them. Particularly these last 10, 15 minutes or so. Oh, Apex, you may have shoved a little bit too far up. Yeah, this time there's no getting out. Thank you, Yorick. Thank you for that very, very edgy comment at the end of that fight. Anyways. Sorry, Yorick's voice work is actually really well done. I gotta give props to Riot for that, and it distracted me for a moment there. But Malala's gonna be sealing away a red buff. And, I gotta give a lot of the props in these later team fights, particularly for NYU's success to Malala. He's done a great job of playing to his strengths at Jhin, staying to the back lines, belting out a ton of damage, and having really good target selection as well. While still remaining on the back of the fight, he's been able to kill off such priority targets as like Sov or Crypt now and then. Though on the other side of that coin, I gotta give props to Crypt, who's done a great job of putting out damage as Victor in these team fights. That is where the champion shines, and he's been using it very well. Curtain Call comes down. That's just to force them off of this inhibitor. And NYU is strong-arming the advantages they got in the past. They're reliving the past here. Coming back up to top lane. Hey, remember that time 15 minutes ago when we killed your inhibitor? Let's do that again. That worked out well. But we'll see if they can turn that into a victory this time around. Last time around they didn't really have the right game plan moving forward past it. And this may not be the right one, as Sprinkles is about caught out, but Ganker gets stopped up by a wall of faces, which is terrifying. And now the ZZ Rot portal as well, with Baron buffs still on a few members, and gold mattering less and less. Vexillium definitely have a realistic chance at this game. I'd still say they're very much behind, particularly because of that inhibitor being down, the inhibitor being open on the bottom lane. Just general map control. They still haven't even taken the outer turret and top. But they have not lost. And that is the most important thing. And I mean, Apex has been given time to scale up. That's also really important for them. Apex's lane was really, really rough, and props to the guy. In terms of farm, he's actually managed to pull back and actually pull ahead. Whereas before, he was down 40 CS at one point in lane. This is some focus onto Malala. I like the start of that fight. They pull the heal off of the Jhin. That is really good for Ganker. Now, he's holding the back line. Malala is going to just about get away with his flash, though, and Ganker will give his life for it. Both summoners off the Jhin. We'll see if they can work with that as Curtain Call comes down. Akablue is going to get melted, but he's got a GA for himself, as well as, I believe, his passive. So he's got a few extra chances at this fight. As he elastic slingshots away, and this could be Vexillion coming out ahead here, unless NSFW gets caged up and absolutely slaughtered. And the fact that Malala is missing his summoners doesn't matter when the enemy team is missing all of their hit points. Props to the guy for playing safely, using the resources as they were needed. That is what the summoners are for in the end. And this is going to be GG, I imagine, from NYU. Now, Akablue going to be tanking up that turret. And Malala going to be finishing it off. And NYU take the game. And that is game 1 of 1. Best of 3s are reserved for the finals, as the semifinals are only a best of 1. Vexillion knocked out of our tournament, and I'm going to go and get into the next lobby for the next game, get things rolling for you folks as soon as possible. And who knows, maybe I'll have a co-caster for this next best of 3. I would certainly enjoy that. I'm getting a little lonely on the desk. Anyways, I'll be right back, guys. Give me just a few.
Every child in Valorant has heard the tale before about the cursed mommy boy who felt his heart no more. So sad and lorn, the helpless lad, Amumu was his name. He ventured out to find a friend and learn about his bane. determined to make friends if only they would understand. But even when Amumu stood upon the ledge of home, his hope would disappoint him and he would remain alone. But then the curse began to whisper in his ear. It would confirm what was Amumu's biggest fear. It pledged that never shall someone become his friend. It pledged that he shall be alone until his end. The sorrow and despair became too much to bear. The moment when Amumu realized what he had done, too late it was for him, for them. The evil curse had won. The anger and the anguish overwhelmed his fragile soul and caused a wicked tantrum that he never could control.
Alrighty, everybody, how we doing today? Let's get that champ select up there on your screen. My name is Octavian, and I'm not going to be lonely anymore because I am joined on the caster desk now by my good old friend and erstwhile companion, Effect FX. How you doing?
Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry I'm late.
It's okay. Better late than never, as I think you said as you arrived. And we're getting into the picks and bans here, or into the bans, I suppose. Ilaoi, Nidalee, Syndra, Jace. Syndra, Jace makes a lot of sense meta-wise. Ilaoi doesn't really, but maybe it was banned out last time against NYU, and it is NYU on red, by the way, and Fiesta on blue. So maybe there's a targeted ban there that we don't know about.
That seems to possibly make sense. Ilaoi is one of those characters that if you let her get out of control, she can just do stupid amounts of AoE damage.
Mm-hmm. And she's super reliable-ish. Reliable may be the wrong word. She doesn't fall behind permanently from a lane. Some champions, you put them behind and it takes them the whole game to come back. But Ilaoi, you put her behind and she'll be okay by the time 30 minutes rolls around. She just needs like 3 items to be a threat to pretty much anybody. Because she scales so well with levels as opposed to items. So while reliable may not describe her super well because it's hard to actually use that damage, the damage she does have reliably shows up at some point in the game.
Absolutely. Get that Black Cleaver, get the Death Dance, and she's just a serious issue if you ignore her.
Mm-hmm. And Malphite is going back to the Fizz.
Opting for a Rise first pick as well.
Yeah, you weren't around. In fact, you were off malarkeying wherever you happened to be malarkeying. But Malphite did pick Fizz last time around, so we're going to be seeing that again, a reprisal of his previous role. And Malala, who I would say was the star of the lineup for NYU, at least in the later game, will be going with Caitlyn. Sadly, the players did not put themselves in LCS order, but we can whip them into shape next game.
Absolutely.
And the Fizz was played against a Victor last time, so iPing only is very confident picking this Victor into Malphace's Fizz. He did well enough into it before. Though that is strange. Is that a top lane Rise then?
That seems to be the case.
Yeah.
A top lane Victor just seems extremely unlikely.
Yeah, that's really the only place they could maneuver that composition about now, as Rek'Sai is going to be going into the jungle. And Aquablue was on Zac last time around as well, so we're seeing just a lot of, I'm presuming, comfort picks for NYU.
Should be some synergy with that Yasuo if they lock it in.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, even Fizz has some synergy with Yasuo, as Fizz's ulti does count as a displacement for the purposes of Last Breath. Not when it initially hits, obviously, but when the shark comes up to take a big old chomp out of its target. That is going to slightly knock around the person it's eating and knock back everybody else that it hits. So that will be the Yasuo locked in. Very squishy solo laners here for NYU.
Absolutely. So seems most likely going to be a top lane Yasuo because it's been a while since we've seen top lane Fizz.
Yeah.
At all.
And I mean, Malphite played Fizz last time around. We've seen that they have a penchant for the mid Fizz, so I would imagine that's the choice they're going with. Ezreal Bard would be a interesting lane, pretty defensive, I'd say. That's just a really cool team composition altogether that they've got there. If they do lock in the Bard, yeah, some interesting engage with Tempered Fate. You could theoretically Tempered Fate the enemy team, follow up with a Realm Warp, and be right on top of them as they come out of the Tempered Fate, and that would be really neat if you could pull it off. But it does seem a little bit unreliable. That's what I would say about the composition drafted here, is that it might not be super reliable, even if it's got some strong points.
Securing that long range Temper Fate is definitely going to be on the difficult side.
Yeah, and I mean that's not the only combo they'd go for. It's just pretty much everything they do except for on Burrow and Rise Snare is reliant on skill shots landing, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that Fiesta is going to have to show up. Fiesta's going to have to play mechanically well as play solidly on a macro level.
Absolutely. And if NYU plays really well, their soul laners can deal with Fiesta soul laners. If they get going, there's no way those mages are going to be able to easily deal with a Yasuo or a Fed Fizz.
The really interesting thing about this game is that top and mid are kind of interchangeable in a few ways between these teams. Like, Fizz and Yasuo are going to be the solo lane matchups. Victor can match up against either of those. So even though you usually don't put Victor in top, you could theoretically, just by dint of the champion matchup. It would still not be quite as good as mid, because Victor, unlike Ryze, is not as capable of just like running away. You know, he doesn't get the shields on the rotation. He doesn't get the point-and-click snare. Like, Gravity Well is good for zone control, but against a Zac, it's not really going to help him that much in an escape, and top is the longer lane than mid lane. So he'd be more vulnerable to ganks up there. But other than that concern aside, like, these lanes are swappable, honestly.
It's probably going to end up if iPing only starts to struggle in one lane that might rotate top and end mid.
Yeah, I mean, that can lose you a lot of momentum overall. Like, I don't know if they'll be swapping mid-game, because that usually is a mistake, unless it's really well thought out and like planned from the beginning. But it's hard to predict exactly where these laners are going to go, particularly because like you don't know what the enemy's going to do either. Yasuo and Fizz are even more swappable, if anything. Both of those can easily handle a top lane role or a mid lane role.
Absolutely.
So yeah, in the solo lanes, we don't know exactly what matchups we may be looking out for, but the rest of the map seems pretty standard. Anyways, we do have about 2 minutes before we get into the match. My name is Octavian. I am joined by Effect_FX. I think there's an underscore in there. I'm sorry if there is an effect. And, oh no. And we'll see you all on the Rift. Give us just a few minutes to get there. Alrighty, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the Rift. And, I mean, it's not so warm a welcome, it seems, as it is a sepia tone. Welcome. My name is Octavian, though, and I am joined by Effect, and this does at least give me the time to change up the team banners and get those correct, as it seems like one of the players disconnected real quick. And hopefully he'll be back with us very shortly.
Hopefully. Let's see one of their top players DC'd.
As it is NYU on red side now, and they are facing off for those of you just joining us. As I should get those correct. Hang on. NYU is facing off here against Fiesta Esports. We're looking to give us a party. Hey, and not a clown party, not a clown fiesta.
Dang old clowns and their fiestas.
They've been inhabiting solo queue for quite a while now. It's their new home. Alright, well, that also gives me time to get these all set up, though actually we don't know who's going to top and who's going to mid, because they also both took the same exact summoners. They're going double teleport, which seems to be a favorite strategy of NYU, which I can't quite pick apart why they want to do it. You weren't here, Effect, but last game, even though NYU had a pretty solid win, I don't know, I wouldn't say dominating. It's a word I was maybe going to go to, but on second thought, I don't think I can go there. Because they often looked a little bit messy after getting a lead. They'd get a lead, get a gold lead for themselves, or get a man advantage on the map from a few picks or something like that, and then they'd just try and 5-man push. And they were playing in a game where they were a team with a lot of pick-focused champions. They had like the Fizz as before, they had a Zac as before, Malala was doing quite well on Jhin, so they had a ton of pick potential. And they kept forcing team fights against an enemy team that was running Hecarim, Karma, Sivir, and Jace. Like, an insanely good spearhead teamfight composition. And they lost 3 team fights and a Baron towards the end of the match. They still ended up winning the match through, like, grit and determination, it seemed. But they lost multiple team fights because I think they took the wrong tack. But they're going back to the double teleport, even if last time it may not have been executed to its fullest effect. We'll see whether or not that is the case this time around.
Definitely interesting to see, because Fiesta doesn't have any teleports. They do have the Realm Warp, of course, but...
Yeah, and they've got some cross-map mobility from Rek'Sai as well, which is going to be useful later on. But yeah, if the game goes really late, they could just get outmaneuvered on the map. That's very true. It also, one of the sort of results of that is that it leaves your bottom lane a little bit more high and dry than the opposition's, because they at most are going to fight a 3v2, maybe a 4v2 if mid lane roams down, but like they will never have the instantaneous whole enemy team on top of them like a team with 2 teleports can bring to bear.
Absolutely.
A chorus of pings in the mid lane. I ping only, living up to his namesake.
Looks like both junglers are going to be starting at the Krugs.
Yeah, Reprise going to be helping out Aqua Blue, but this means that Kess and Malala are given a little bit of a early XP lead, as Ryan Boy is going to be taking away the camp on the bottom side of the map. So despite the fact that they're starting at the same named camp, they're not actually starting on the same side of the map, and that's going to make the difference here for the bottom laners.
Just see how iPing only deals with the Fizz lane.
We saw the same champion matchup last game, and it went pretty well for the Victor in laning phase, and that right there is why there's so much harass potential. Playful Trickster every once in a while is going to be able to dodge away from a Death Ray or the power transfer combo, but not going to be able to do it consistently enough.
Despite how strong Fizz is able to be because of the damage output he has, he's always vulnerable in the early game to ranged folk.
And that's sort of the story of Fizz. Like, he'll fall behind in the laning phase, but a good Fizz player won't fall behind far enough that it's going to matter. And he's going to be able to hold on to his CS and just keep enough of an item, not lead, but enough items to stay alive. As the Ignite dropped onto the Bard, brings him dangerously low, a flash forward, but he gets himself a Shrine. Now a shift forward from Sweet Pete, who gets the first blood, and a turnaround for Fiesta's bottom lane. Malala may fall as well, as they were trying to take advantage of level 2, but Malala gets the full Caitlyn combo down. Ryan Boy is now here. Preyseeker doesn't land. He's got a red buff, though. All he's got to do is get next to the Caitlyn, and she is toast. There we go. 2-for-1 trade in favor of Fiesta. Some really good play, though, at the end by Malala.
Nice firm lead.
Oh, knock up onto Bayside as Reprise is going in for a trade, but Bayside gets one last Q at the end. comboing it for maximum damage output, and so it's going to trade about evenly.
Malface is forced to go back. Saw a brief glimpse that he's just getting basically really bullied around by I-Ping only.
Yeah, he's going to teleport back in, though, look to try and recoup some of those losses, and maybe even go for the solo kill here. I-Ping only does have some jungler assistance coming in, though, as well as a level lead. He leveled up right in the middle of that fight. So he actually takes a few hundred hit points off of Malface, and he'll be able to just base and buy himself, come back fully healthy to this lane. Malface could base again in that time if he wanted, but he'd lose CS one way or another.
Absolutely. It is wise not to go too deep. We did see Ryan Boy and Clazario heading up there. Hello.
Really nice hook from Kess. Predicted where Sweet Pete was going to go. Sweet Pete really should have just shifted away from that, but he wanted to hold on to the mana, the cooldown. I don't know, something prevented him from using it.
He thought maybe he could juke it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and that was the same sidestep that Clazario used last time around to dodge the hook, and this time Kess was expecting it. So, some pretty deep mind games going on with the Thresh hook bottom lane.
It's Thresh in a nutshell.
Reprise landing the knockup on the base side, who is out of mana. No problems on that front for a Yasuo. And Malala and Kess continue some dominance bottom side. Not too surprising in the Caitlyn v Ezreal matchup. 10 CS, though, is pretty sizable for 5 minutes in. That is a little bit surprising. Well, there's a large wave coming his way. I'm sure Sweet Pete will do alright.
Base side definitely wanting the opportunity to head back and grab a tier, I imagine.
Yeah, base side really does need to work a base in there somewhere, and it's a lot harder for him with that lack of a teleport to do so, because Reprise can just keep the pressure on in this lane.
That's actually really wise at base side to use the wind wall to block him from CSing comfortably into the turret.
Yeah, he's not really at any threat of being traded on by the no mana Rise. So using wind wall somewhat frivolously like that is fine. Ping only takes a big chunk of damage from that playful trickster. He's turning back with some damage of his own. Malface sat in the lane while Ping only went back to base, so he did get a level advantage, as well as that blue buff donated to him from Aqua Blue, who of course doesn't need it, as Zac. So he was looking to try and push that advantage, but it actually trades still about evenly for Ping only. I think he's played this Victor quite well.
He's getting his health back from those biscuits.
Mm-hmm. And Corrupting Potion has already been burned through from Malface. There's no charges left, so even though that trade looked about even for them, it's definitely in favor of Ping only, who just burned Flash. Okay.
Malface just burned from the water, so...
Oh, okay, so it was the early level 6. Clarizo now getting ignited, though he steps back onto a Cupcake, and that fight's not going to be nearly as even as the first one we saw. Clarizio dying without so much as a buy your meat.
Kez, once again, showing some extremely nice touch play.
Yeah, really. This guy's been on point. And, right in taking the Ignite, I think. His Thresh has been aggressive enough, he's been pushing leads enough, that I think the Ignite is the right choice. I very rarely say that. I'm not a huge fan of Ignite support. But when you play the lane just exactly right, Ignite does have some potential.
Kess looking for... No, he's not going to get it.
Malala looking to try and continue to harass Sweet Pete while he's alone and unable to really fight back. And Fiesta base side did finally get his break to go back to base. He did pick up that tier as you anticipated, but now he's not catching any further breaks. Has to flash away from the slicing maelstrom. That's not quite the right ability. From the stretching slingshot.
Elastic slingshot.
Elastic slingshot. You know what? I would have gotten there. I would have got there eventually. I just combined two of Zac's abilities. He always combos them anyways.
Basically.
Now we see a potential roam from Malface, though he does get spotted out by a ward, and there's a crab, like, on the way up. So Bayside has got to know that Fizz might come top. And yeah, it's going to deter it.
Malface looking for opportunity to see if he can jump on I-Ping only.
As Malala continues to actually land some decent damage on a Sweet Pete, even in the 2v1 here. He does take about half his health for it. He's got the level 6 advantage now. As Ryan Boy's waiting in the wings. Ping only going to drop the stun field, but it expires! as Maulface and Aqua Blue land on him. That is so unfortunate for him. And now Ryan Boy's getting hooked back under the turret in a dive that has gone horribly, horribly wrong for Fiesta on the bottom side. Kess now flashing forward, continuing the aggressive Thresh play. The hook doesn't quite land as a magical journey ferries Bard to safety.
That's gotta be so bad for Ryan Boy. He couldn't even get the opportunity to flash out of the turret because he got hooked.
Yeah. I mean, despite the flash flay into hook not quite landing at the end, Kiss still had some good play during that skirmish. And there's some more good play. A beautiful hook onto Sweet Pete. That thing looked like it just magnetized onto the Ezreal. Now Ryan Boy getting chased out of his own jungle as well, and things are going from bad to worse for Fiesta, who are going to lose their jungler once again, potentially. I don't know. Ryan Boy just about surviving. Maulface finally brings him down, but it is going to be an even trade. Potentially even more so as Fiesta Bayside is popping his ghost to chase after Maulface, and there's no playful trickster to avoid the snare. There is at the very end, but an auto will do the job at this point. There it is.
Nice recovery. They needed all the help they get there because it was starting to look extremely grim.
Yeah, particularly in bottom lane. Despite the fact that that first set of kills traded back and forth looked even, I feel like Malala's just from that point onwards played the lane a little bit better, and of course Kess has landed some absolutely brilliant hooks. Thresh hasn't been in like top tier in the meta for a while now, but he never really falls completely out of favor in the hands of somebody who knows what to do.
He has way too many tools that makes him so powerful for him to fully fall out.
And that hook is so deceptive. Like, I swear that hook onto Sweet Pete under the turret there just had more range than any hook I've ever thrown.
Hacks!
No. Let's not accuse these players of hacks. Let's instead accuse these players of being very skilled, because this is the finals of our monthly open, our monthly closed, rather. And you'd imagine that this is where you'd find the best players Reverie has to offer. And indeed, I think that's what we're finding. Cass is going to get stunned up against the turret here, but Aquablue's coming in, and Clarizio is regretting going for this kill. Malala's on a killing spree as the Bard crumples again.
Making sure that he couldn't take that magical journey.
Oh, yeah. Hey, the knockup landing under Reprise, that signals... I mean, onto Bayside, that signals Reprise to go in. But honestly, he doesn't really accomplish that much while he's in there.
They both still deal about equal damage to each other. Bayside has that, has the armor and health now. Yeah, and on the other side of the coin, Reprise has the magic resist from his Hex Drinker, so they've both built defensively for the lane here. And, yeah, as you say, neither one really does much. Hex Drinker does make sense here.
Oh, yeah, definitely. As does the Zonias that's pretty clearly being built by Bayside. The double cloth armor. I mean, there's other options, I suppose. Zonias would be pretty high on the AP side for Rise. You can go tankier options. But I think it makes quite a bit of sense against the sort of bursty assassin nature of both of these solo laners. Speaking of them, they're both up at the top side as Maulface is looking to pressure this dive, and Reprise is going to be the one to finish off the kill. Meanwhile, not letting up across the board, we're seeing NYU going for a dragon take as well as a top lane dive. They want to have their map and macro it too, but it's getting so close. The smite comes down. There's the secure for Ryan Boy, and a two-man Bard ulti might secure even more. Malala is going to be getting some good damage out, but it's a double kill for the Ezreal as iPing only roaming to the top side will finish off the Yasuo, and Malala is the next to go down. Ryan Boy cleaning up with a shutdown. That was Fiesta coming back into this game.
Fiesta making an extremely nice overall recovery. That was a brilliant Tempered Fate by Clazario.
Yes, and particularly a recovery for Clarizio? Clarizio.
Clarizio, yeah.
Yes, because he's had a really rough laning phase. A lot of the missteps in bottom lane have been down to the Bard being overextended, even just so very slightly, and has been taken advantage of by Kess's Thresh mostly. So to get a nice ulti like that, even if it isn't like something that directly gives you gold as the support, you know, you don't like get 500 gold for landing a two-man Bard ult or something, it still just morale-wise is really, really helpful to know that, you know, you've made some mistakes, but you're also still a good player and you can make good plays.
It's always good to know that everyone makes mistakes, even the best players.
Yeah, unless you're Faker. No, I mean, he actually made some mistakes in Worlds. That was an exciting series of matches, went 3-2.
Absolutely. That was the first best of 5 ever for Worlds.
Yeah, in terms of finals. Oh, Malala going to be bound up there as Bayside is once again in 1v1 with Reprise, who at this point, having finished off the Zeal, does a little bit more damage than Bayside can handle. But he may be able to get out of there, at least by dint of Summoner. both Ghost and Flash. And he makes his way out of the lane, but at a pretty steep cost.
He's definitely starting to struggle against Reprise there.
Malala maxing the traps first is going to set up a defensive line. Stepping on one of those things is a death sentence, pretty literally, given that there's a Thresh in the lane.
Ryan Boyd trying to get some CS there. Ooh, ping, what's he gonna do?
Yeah, and again, this is where Victor starts to fall off. He's against Fizz particularly. I don't want to say that Victor's a bad pick. He's very solid, but because his Reprise in the 1v1 with Ryan Boyd, looks like that'll fizzle out. Because his self peel is really timing based, it's very difficult to peel off of Fizz, who can kind of just ignore gravity well with 2 forms of instant mobility. So once Fizz manages to get some solid starting items, and really that's just a few stacks on a Dark Seal and the pieces of a full item. My god, that hook was amazing on the Sweet Pea, getting pulled right into a trap. There's another one into the double kill for Malala. Kess and Malala are absolutely dissecting Fiesta's bottom lane.
That was just disgusting.
Lined up beautifully. Took advantage of Sweet Pea trying to come out of the bush. And pulled him right onto the trap, too. Like, that's... Oh, man, that's gross.
And Malala managed to dump a ton of damage where Clarizio could even get down the Temper Fate to try and block any kind of damage.
Malphite is waiting in the corner. Ryan Boy's going to be face-checking into a very dangerous bush here. There's the flash into the Urchin's strike. And Ryan Boy is tankier than Malphace's usual. Prey might be able to escape.
So
the tick
close.
Doesn't do it! He had a potion running. He lives.
And that is a good reminder for everybody to always, if you get in a fight, turn on a potion.
Yeah, even if it's just the refillable pot, which is what he had. Oh man, Malphace going for the red buff might be a little more than he can handle now. Ping only drops down the death ray, but it doesn't find his mark. He's press R.
He's like,
he
you're
is tired
not
of this
away.
face. Oh, that sucks. The magical journey didn't go all the way to the inside of the wall. Oh man. Some entertaining moments in the last, well, few moments here for this game. As we return to the top lane, you know, the home of entertaining moments. There's the knock-up onto base side, who may not survive this one. He gets out pretty scathed, but not dead yet. Reprise, though, wants to fix that, but he gets bound up under the turret as he tries to dash through the minion wave! Point and click, baby! There's no amount of sweeping blades that can prevent you from being clicked on. I mean, yeah, a nice play is one way to phrase it. I think that was just overconfidence from Reprise, and some mechanical errors as well. He missed one of his Qs in the middle of that fight, and that definitely would have killed Bayside. And then he still goes for it even after the W cooldown's available again.
Poor Reprise. He's so close, but yet so far. Well, Malphite looking for a roam. No, he's just taking...
Sweet Pete is toying with fire, poking Malphace here, but... I mean, it is one of the ways that you beat the Fizz. You poke him out before you can go in, and then once he tries to go in, you can burst him. Ping only is getting hooked. Kess once again landing some magical death sentences. Malphace has been poked dangerously low before going into this fight, but oh my god, the damage off that auto attack was just kind of dumb. That was kind of dumb damage right there.
Just a little bit.
Oh my god. I rate that Fizz damage a 5 out of 7. There's a hook on Orion Boy. He's going to get knocked back by Let's Bounce as well, and the death of 1,000 flays. Malala's on a killing spree. I think we're seeing the max hook first from Kex as well. Building into CDR. He's stacked CDR in his build. He's maxing hook first. He hooked Ryan Boy twice in the course of his death.
Dang hooks were on point, absolutely.
Yeah, he's full CDR. I'm interested actually to see he's 45% or just 40. He's do I get to see that stat? No, that's AP. Where do I see? I can't see the Thresh's CDR. It's not on the little like character thing. I would bring up the big character screen, but that would cover way too much of the screen. Oh, Ping only may still be dead, even with that hook not landing. There's the ace in the hole. It's gonna be body blocked by Sweet Pete, and Ping only gets out with barely any health, but the hook lands after a flash from Kess. Oh my god, this man is a legend! Sweet Pete's gonna go down to the Ignite. I'm assuming there it is. Thresh being the assassin in the back lines. Yeah, he's landing more hooks. He ain't done. There's another one landing onto Clarizio. He's going to get out with about 100 hit points left. Red buff ticking. He turns around for yet another hook into Ryan Boy. What is that, 6 for 6 in this fight? Good lord.
Tess, you gotta miss a hook eventually.
I don't know if he does, actually. I really don't know if he does need to. He hasn't needed to yet. Actually, we've seen 1 or 2 missed ones. But you know what? When they matter, they land.
That was crazy.
And
there's the locket.
A lot of this is ferrying that gold, particularly in that fight and the one before it, into Malface, who's become a huge threat now. I mean, we saw the massive amount of damage he did with the auto attack onto Sweet Pete earlier, who has a wonderful name. I love that name, even if he's not got a wonderful KDA right now. And
extra 5% CDR from the utility tree, so
he does.
He's
all right,
even more than normal.
Thank you for that information. And yeah, this is what we're talking about with Malface. He's just going to be an unstoppable menace now. He's on a rampage, and he deserves the moniker, I'd say.
He's got the Dark Seal at 8 stacks at 8 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the finished Gunblade.
And this is out of a laning phase that didn't look so hot, but that's Fizz's specialty. You know, you go into this laning phase against a ranged matchup, you go down 15 CS, then you come out with one item blazing and kill off 3 or 4 people, and suddenly you're back into the game. It doesn't really matter. Oh, Reprise not landing the knockup. That's going to spell the end for him. All right, there's still some life left in Fiesta yet. We'll see what they can do with it.
Make a recovery from that string of errors. They need to find a way to deal with Malface. Malface is just in a huge position, basically just to carry this game out by himself now.
Yeah.
Malala is also a huge threat.
A rare missed hook from Kess, but they may still get the kill onto Clarizio here. Malala is now going to turn his attention to Sweet Pete. That Caitlyn range allowing him to poke from out of the turret range, and there it is! Sweet Pete leaving Clarizio up to dry a little bit. Malface now diving to the back line to finish him off as well. And he might go down to the Chaos Storm. Yeah, I don't think he gets out of here. The Lantern, though, pulls him to safety. And Kess saves a life as surely as he ends them.
Kess is just the MVP of this match, without a doubt.
Indeed.
He's enabled so many of these kills to happen. Oh, that was close. A little off.
And, I mean, Malala is becoming something of an unstoppable force as well. He's got 2 core items before we've seen, like, a single one really completed for Sweet Pete. He's got the Mana Immune, and that's going to be a little bit of value for him, but it's slow rolling value as compared to the Infinity Edge, which is just a big old pile of damage right now. And, I mean, I guess Malala's been watching, what are those HG Wentworth commercials where they go, it's my money and I want it now. It's my damage and I want it now.
All right.
Malface didn't have Playful Trickster up. He's going to be stunned up against the wall now by Clarizio. They are focusing in onto the Fizz, and they will get themselves a pick. All right, there is still life left in Fiesta.
And he turned Malface into sushi.
Yeah. If you do that, I don't know. Is he a fish? He's kind of a fish person. That's weird.
He's a fish thing.
It is very weird. Bayside is looking for the 1v1 here because he knows it won't be for too long. As Magical Journey's going to pull Clarizio and Ryan Boy into the fight. There's the slow from the Meep. The wind wall comes up. It blocks out another Meep enhanced auto attack, so he's not currently slowed, but a flash forward from Bayside. However, he's bought quite a bit of time. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Ping only is going to go down as Malala finishes that job pretty darn quick. Bayside may fall to Aqua Blue as Realm Warp is not enough to get him out in time. That does get canceled by any sort of damage, let alone CC. Finally, Reprise goes down, but so much was invested into that kill. And may yet be invested still. No, Aqua Blue will not be hunting down another kill. Okay.
Clarizio is able to help.
But I mean, look at this.
That Aqua Blue can no longer chase.
Oh, does Malala get the snipe? No, he doesn't. Okay. But an inhibitor goes down in the mid lane. Kills go down in the mid lane. Malala and Kess, wherever they go, they just can't be stopped.
And they invested so much to kill Malface and Reprise that they just weren't able to stop Malala and Kess in the mid that they were pushing. They're going to be able to push really hard now that it's...
I think they need to... This is a best of 3, by the way, for those of you perhaps unfamiliar with Reverie. This is our finals, and finals are a best of 3. So Fiesta, perhaps in the next game, if they're looking that far ahead... I have to get back to that point. Aqua Blue flashes away. All right. May have to consider getting themselves a better matchup in the bottom lane. Whether that means like banning out Malala's Caitlyn or just picking something that isn't quite as onerous into it. I don't know, like...
I would not be terribly surprised to see a Thresh ban, even if it's not the most optimal ban.
Possibly, I don't know. Pick something that can counter the Thresh a little better. You can go something that's decent against both Caitlyn and Thresh. If you want to play towards the later game, you could play Sivir. She's okay. Not amazing, but okay in that matchup. I mean, honestly, Ezreal isn't even that bad. Ezreal's pretty good against Thresh, but it just doesn't have any presence in a lane against Caitlyn, because you've got no wave clear, and Caitlyn can just keep shoving you in. That's why I say Sivir would be a little better, because at least Bouncing Blade and Boomerang Toss would give you some amount of wave clear to survive the lane with.
Malphite is taking the opportunity just to split push that top side, and he knows that there's no one who can really stop him currently.
Mm-hmm. And now Baron is like a real objective here, a real threat. Smallface is going to burst out Bard, get out of there without any consequences. Perhaps he gets caught at the very edge of the Tempered Fate. However, he's got a team to back him up. There's a hook on the base side, and he is eliminated. Clarizio's going to get knocked out of his magical journey. Another hook there on the top side of the fight. Kess performing it for sure. It's a double kill going to Malphite as he cleans up the kills, and this is going to be a Baron attempt. And I don't really see it being anything of a failure for them, as NYU have definitive control of this match.
They were so very close to picking up Malphite there, but his team was in position to absolutely help him.
Yeah, and the Bard ulti honestly bought just as much time for NYU as it did for Fiesta. It was just kind of a pause button on the kill on Malphite. But what else could they do? I mean, it was either that or let Malphite just walk away unscathed after taking half of their support's health, and now he's just going to walk right up to ping only. And this is a fed fizz. I mean, you don't see a lot of fizzes nowadays. Malphite gets stunned to the turret. He may go down. Yeah, he does indeed, even with a heal. Alright, that's a pretty darn good start. The Realm Warp 2 inches to the right may not be the correct ending to the fight, though. He warps himself into a cupcake shop. Kess is going to pull Ryan Boyd back to his fate as he desperately tries to escape it, but another hook on Carizio will ensure he has a similar one. It looked pretty good at the start when Fizz went down, but a series of unfortunate events and a series of pretty darn fortunate hooks means... Oh, no, the Lantern's not going to do very much there, Kess, I'm sorry. Means that this is victory for NYU Squad V2. Game 1 going their way, and the final hook of the game. Do they win?
Well,
win the game? Okay, they win the game.
I thought they were going to throw for a second, which is unlikely given
Very.
the Super Minions pushing in.
Baron buffed Super Minions. Probably doing about as much damage to that thing as Caitlyn was at this point in the game.
That was disgusting on Kess's part.
Yeah, I mean, we sat through about an even laning phase on the most part, except for in bottom lane, I'd say. And then just in so many team fights, Cass in particular performed amazingly with hooks, but they played around those hooks really well as well. Every time Cass singled somebody out, the rest of the team jumped on them like vultures to a rotting corpse. They were coordinated in their picks. It wasn't just that they were landing good skill shots, they were following up on them as well. But we do have a game 2 to get into, folks, so give us just a few minutes while we set up the lobby, and we will be right back with you post-haste. Alright, everyone, the music has faded out, and you all know what that means. We are into picks and bans here for our second game of the night between NYU Squad V2 and Fiesta Esports. Fiesta, I've just been told, is not actually fielding their main roster, which may be part of the reason why they didn't come out victorious last game. But they still put up something of a decent fight, I'd say, particularly in the earlier games. So,
early game wasn't too much of an issue until basically Malface kind of got a bunch of kills and started
yes.
going.
I would say Malface getting those kills was a result of Kess and Malala coming out of the lane, though. And the main weakness they had was their bottom lane. So that's where I'd like to see them focus on fixing things. None of the bans have been focused there, as it is Fiesta on red side this time around and NYU on blue. But they did ban out the Fizz, and they banned out Zac as well, which is something that Aqua Blue has played pretty much exclusively, actually exclusively tonight.
Very interested to see how they deal with Kess's Thresh, because that's something that they have to be a little more careful about, because his hooks were murder.
Yes, there's a few ways they could do it. They could pick it away here, if Clarizio is comfortable on that pick, which a lot of supports are. It's been a popular pick for a long time now. They can try and go with a lane that punishes the Thresh to some degree by outranging him and having spell shields perhaps to block out his hooks. A Morgana might have been interesting, but it looks like it will be a Karma, which is a solid pick, I'd say. And honestly, it might not be worth it to like try and pick around a Thresh anyways, because Kess could have a larger champion pool than just the Thresh pick.
That's true.
It was potent, but if you build a bottom lane composition around Thresh and then they pick something else, sometimes you find yourself up a creek without a paddle.
Absolutely. Given his high level Thresh play, I'm assuming that he probably has a wider champion pool.
Potentially, yeah. We have seen these players before, obviously, since we are in the monthly tournament, and these are all teams that have earned their way into the tournament through the weekly or bought their way in through a price tag. And so these are teams that we often have seen in the past, but players get swapped around, rosters get changed, and the amateur scene is generally a bubbling hodgepodge mix, so it is difficult to tell. But Thresh will be locked in, and Sprinkles is going back to the Yorick. Every time I've seen this guy play, Yorick is his go-to, and every time he comes out of a quiet laning phase and just suddenly is this indomitable force.
He's got to dig graves for everyone. A lot of work to do.
But there are no graves in this game yet. Yeah? Neither side picked him. I like Olaf, Karma, Orianna, and Shen. That right there is a composition put together. I also like Sivir. Sivir has a spell shield for Thresh hooks. That's really strong. Sivir is decent against Caitlyn, which Malala seems to like. So, not amazing. I'm not saying Sivir's like a counter pick, but can survive.
Her
And
ability
they
to
need
push the wave back, make sure that she doesn't get too far behind.
And Malala and Kess were shoving in continually. So if they go for that same sort of attack, Sivir's a good answer. It's also compositionally good alongside an Olaf and a Karma. So I like the draft so far from Fiesta.
When that Olaf gets going, that's actually kind of terrifying.
Ooh,
Hello.
that would be quite interesting. We are still waiting on a mid laner. So if that gets picked, we're talking about the Kokma, by the way. The Vayne is interesting too. They both are. But if the Kokma gets picked, it would be likely an AP mid-cog, which we haven't seen aside from like a brief 2-3 week stints in the NALCS for a little while.
It's definitely been a while since we've seen an AP Kokma.
Yeah, I think Bjergsen played it a good few times. It's powerful, but it did get nerfed recently. But there it is, it's locked in. Could be a lane Elise and a jungle cog. I've seen jungle cogs before, actually.
I did see that
It
video.
seems less likely, though.
It does seem less likely. It reminds me of a, what was that? Cow Step, right? Is that?
Cowsep? Yeah, the Master Yi player, for the most part.
Yeah. I saw a video of him playing jungle cog, and he sold a Baron.
Oh, yeah. No, Kog'Maw does absolutely crazy damage. The problem is he's shouldn't be allowed to do that against a competent team, especially a team with an Olaf and that much ability to get an Olaf next to someone. You know, it's an Olaf with a Sivir, a Karma, and a Shen. Like, Kog'Maw should not be allowed to sit there and right-click anyone.
Absolutely. I can imagine that Ryan Boy is just going to be like, Maulface, I'm coming for you, buddy.
Yeah, pretty much. Though, the way they've sort of worked around that is they've gone with a double hyper carry composition. They've got Vayne and Kog'Maw on the same team, and Olaf can only really chase one of those people down at a time. So it's a okay answer. I wouldn't say it's my favorite answer to an Olaf composition, but if you're going to be picking a Kog'Maw against Olaf, I think it is actually a pretty good idea to also pick a Vayne against Olaf and just diversify your threats.
There's certainly a lot of damage that they can put onto one target, and it'll probably melt really quickly if they get into the late game.
And we'll have to see whether or not it is actually an AP Kog'Maw or an AD, because that really changes it. He could still go AD as a lane Kog'Maw and be just fine. It also could be like a lane Vayne. We see that every now and again, but I think that's even less likely. There's so many strange picks here from NYU. There's a lot of different directions they can go. Whereas on the other side, Fiesta has picked the like standard Worlds meta comp. Like just absolutely standard, except maybe for the Sivir and Shen, who are a little bit dated at this point, but not like out of the meta like a Vayne or a Kog'Maw would be.
Yeah, they're not as stale as the Vayne and the Cog and the Thresh even.
Like, the only way you could make it more standard is if that was like a Gnar or a Relia top, or Poppy even. Poppy would be pretty darn Worlds meta-y, and like a Caitlyn AD carry. But all that aside, we do have 2 minutes of the Spectre delay to get through, and we are going to get through that with some really nice music. So give us just a little bit, folks, and we will be into gameplay very, very shortly. Alrighty, everybody, we are into game, and I am very, very willing to see what we get to see tonight, because that was a pretty darn crazy game one. Some really, really sweet plays from both sides, and I am excited to see what a Vayne Kog'Maw composition is going to look like, I have to say.
Absolutely. Haven't seen. I don't think I've ever seen a Vayne Kog'Maw comp. I don't think I've seen a Kog'Maw at all in my time here at Reverie.
I have seen specifically a Vayne Kog'Maw Yorick composition before, but this is back before his rework when he could double one of his own allies. So basically the whole theory behind the comp was Yorick would clone either the Vayne or the Kog'Maw during a fight, and you'd basically have like 3 carries just right-clicking on enemies and
That's
beating
just
them to
disgusting.
death with high damage. Yeah, in the late game it got crazy, but it was a really, really rough early game to get through.
Absolutely. But I can imagine that late game is just like, hey, everyone is going to die.
And it's oh, pardon me. It is kind of interesting that we have like the same 3 champions years down the road after a Yorick rework, but I think it's just because Sprinkles is a like avid Yorick player and not because of that same synergy anymore, obviously, since the ulti has been changed. And Yorick is a very different champion than he used to be.
Absolutely. And Fiesta or Bayside just kind of hanging out there, but nothing is going to come of it. Both junglers starting at the Grump.
There's some interesting use to the Yorick pick. As I was pointing out in chat, there's actually particular use to Yorick against Olaf because he can create the terrain and block him in. It's one of the reasons why you see like a Trundle pick or even sometimes an Anivia against a team with an Olaf. As Maulface did in fact go AP. Let me get the players rearranged to their correct spots on the scoreboard here.
Clarizio doing karma things and putting some hurt down.
Yeah, and the fact that they have the lane push in their favor now with the Sivir pick, they're against a less lane dominant champion like the Vayne on Malala. I think this is actually going to look really good for Sweet Peace and Clarizio, who are kind of the weak point of their team last time around in terms of laning phase, at the very least.
Early game Vayne is certainly a lot easier to deal with than an early game Caitlyn.
Though there's always the risk that if you do fall behind against a Vayne by some miracle or just general lack thereof, then it is much harder to get back into the game. And Vayne is a crushing opponent to give gold to.
Absolutely. It's not a character you want to be feeding.
Yeah. Much more punishing of mistakes, but much less punishing of like an even lane. As Bayside is dashing in onto Sprinkles, getting that Grass of the Undying proc. His Q doing some great damage as well. I actually quite like the Shen against the Auric pick. As Clarizio pops the Empower there, but doesn't actually drop any abilities with it. Now Bayside, in just the pure 1v1 with Sprinkles, is about to go down as Aquablue cocoons a minion, but he doesn't really need it anymore as the first blood comes through.
Very nice pickup by Aquablue there.
That minion was not going to be saving anybody then. Not at all. Oh, hook aimed for Clarizio, lands onto Sweet Pea. As the boomerang chunks both on the way there and the way out. Nicely played.
Kess and Malala are not having an easy time here, though. Taking a lot of damage.
Certainly not as favorable as the last time around. NYU still does have an early kill, though, this time on the Bayside. And Sprinkles is a formidable Yorick player. He was not actually around in the last game. They've been subbing in and out their top laner between these matches. So we didn't get to see Sprinkles play so far in the finals, but he did in the semifinals pull out this Yorick, and it was quite a force to be reckoned with.
Definitely showing some really well played Yorick right now, given that he almost... Actually, no. He did 1v1 Bayside down to death, basically.
Yeah, I mean, even if Aquablue hadn't been there, I think that kill would have still gone down. It was just safer for Aquablue to face check into the bush. And also giving an early kill to the Elise jungle certainly isn't bad.
Will definitely enable him to do some strong ganks elsewhere.
And one of the things we didn't take note of is the fact that Aquablue managed to get himself, I think, a 3-buff start. That's why he was coming into top lane through the tri-bush like that, and why Ryan Boy only had a blue buff. It was actually a really good jungle start from Aquablue as he invaded and stole away a red.
He's behind it in CS, but that one kill is definitely going to help a lot.
Yeah, that's because of the time spent like walking across the map to get over to the enemy jungle, as well as the time spent in the lane going for the gank. I'd say it's more than worth it, honestly.
Absolutely. There's no doubt there.
As now Malala is finally getting the wave shoved back in the other direction, but he's taking some damage in the process.
He's taking a lot of damage, but he is keeping up in CS.
Yeah, that's all you really need to do is Vayne. Built into that cull as well, so he's going to have some Gold's relying in the later game. That hook was... That was a beautiful hook right there. That was as the minion was dying. He timed it so it would hit after it did so. But we do have Ryan Boy coming into the bottom lane, and they may regret that engagement. Ping only going to get bursted here almost to death by Malphase. There's the auto attack that brings him to his knees. And on the bottom side of the map, Vayne trades 1 for 1 in what looked like a irretrievably bad situation for NYU. So actually, overall, pretty darn good for NYU across the board. Ryan Boy's going to look to equalize it with an Ocean Drake take, though.
Some more regions, that's always extremely helpful.
Yeah, this is a little rough for Bayside, though, as he's run down to the bottom side to try and help out. He didn't actually burn teleport. That's not on a short enough... It's not on a recent enough cooldown, so he actually just walked down here. He's going to lose a huge wave of minions up top side. He's already 20 CS back as well. This is a weakness that's opening up now in the top lane. Shen does have utility even without gold, but I don't know if it's that much.
Sprinkles is going to have a nice, easy lane, it seems.
Yeah, and Sprinkles, he's not to be underestimated in this pick. I've hyped it up a few times. It's pretty much unstoppable once he gets into like the later game on Yorick. He becomes a split pushing that monster.
Well, he's now hit level 5.
Once he manages to get a base in with enough gold to finish off even just the Cutlass, and then level 6, that's going to be the first mini power spike for Vayne, if he's going for the Blade, which I presume he is, but you can go other options as well.
Blade has been less popular since its last bout of nerfs.
But really, regardless of your first item choice, once you get a significant, like, item chunk, you know, if you're going a different route, perhaps like a Zeal or a BF Sword or any of the really big tickets items, or middle ticket items, I guess, plus level 6 giving you all that free stat juice, then you do become something of a menace, and it's when you first become a real threat. But let's turn our attention to mid. Malphase playing AP Kog'Maw, though. This lane's going pretty well.
It's pretty even so far.
I'm enjoying it.
Only having a much easier time, I imagine.
Did I say AP Caitlyn? I meant AP Kog'Maw if I did.
You said AP Cog.
Okay, good. AP Caitlyn is dead.
At least if you said AP Caitlyn, I don't recall hearing that. Maybe.
There's the hook onto Clarizio. Not going to be followed up by too much, though.
Kez is still having really good hooks, but a little early for Malal to be doing a whole ton of damage.
Yeah. And, I mean, it seems like they understand that. Because they didn't really go, like, whole hog on that hook. Malphase, though, this is the weakness of the Kog'Maw pick. It's kind of vulnerable to the 1v1s, but good lord, he has a lot of damage. He turns it back around. It's a 1-for-1 trade as Ryan Boy comes in to clean up.
I don't think I Ping Only was expecting that level of burst.
No, I certainly wasn't, and neither was the Victor. As even through a Negatron cloak, he's like invested in magic resistance this early on to try and mitigate some of the poke. Oh, that's a taunt onto Sprinkles and the deflection as well. That was a really nice little trade from Bayside. But is he so far back that it doesn't matter? He's got half the CS of Sprinkles right now. And look at this health regen. It doesn't even matter. Sprinkles has more health than Bayside already.
That's just crazy. Those dang corrupted pots.
I mean, it's that, and also the Q has a percentage heal on it based off how much damage it does, I believe.
I didn't know that. That's actually
and Grasp of the Undying. Like, it's one of the reasons why he's so oppressive as a laner. He just damage doesn't stick to him anymore. It's kind of always been the case with Yorick, but
yeah,
it's even more exaggerated than it used to be. Good Death Laser.
Sprinkle's gonna have a nice back. He's sitting at 1,800 gold in the bank currently.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like he's going for Frozen Mallet or Trinity Force or Black Cleaver, one of the Phage items, all of which make a lot of sense. That's the other nice thing about Yorick. He's one of those bruisers that has a lot of build flexibility. Ryan Boy being bullied out of the jungle here by Aqua Blue, but he's turning around. He's taking this fight. He's popping in Ragnarok a little bit late for the ulti burn, but he gets it nonetheless.
And the axe finishes the job.
Oh, he didn't realize how committed he was to that fight until a little bit later on. But Clarizio's going to get hooked back right into the box. Malala, through the exhaust, is still enough of a damage threat that it forces the Karma Flash. Sweet Pete, though, does some good damage in return. But no defensive summoners are used.
Kess gets another hook here on the Clarizio. Clarizio's almost certainly going to die.
Yes, indeed. Zero has to play on his toes, and even if the hook lands onto Sweet Pete, if he can just find a hook, then that's a favorable fight for them. It is a little bit harder under the Sivir, though, with Spell Shield available.
Bayside is still having a super rough lane. He's still double TS compared to...
Oh, Malala's playing a little bit too far forwards. Has to burn the heal. That was very close to being a gone vein. Flash away from Sprinkles, but the Undertow lands. They could easily dive this, but Aqua Blue is around. And the Cocoon will be a field goal as Malface roams from the mid lane. He gets some great damage down, and there it is. A kill for the AP Kog'Maw. He's got the red buff now, and there is no escape for the Shen. Double kill to Malface.
Surprise! Roaming AP Kog'Maw.
Not what I anticipated today, but it worked out pretty darn well. One of the things that makes AP Kog'Maw strong is just how difficult it is to avoid his damage. As he's flashing forwards to try and go aggressive now onto ping only. And one of the reasons why it's very, very difficult is the Snot Carpet is deceptively easy to hit as he rolls that one out. Oh my god. Kess, you madman! One more bouncing boomerang and he would have been gone.
Kess is definitely on the crazy side of things.
And Sprinkles is split pushing.
Malala has picked up Static Shiv, so it is going to give him some wave clear, which will help a little bit.
Yeah, there's the carpet I'm talking about. Like, it seems like it moves pretty slowly, but it actually does the damage like slightly before the animation even reaches you. And it's slightly wider than it looks. So it is really, look, there it is, the very edge of it landing. It's very, very difficult to dodge away from, and it's often what you'll max first as an AP Kog'Maw. I think Malface is gonna trade his life here. Ryan Boy doesn't land it though! He could have just kept going for another auto attack! He's gonna trade 1-for-1 here anyways! He should have just kept walking at Malface! Just stayed right up in front of him so he had no chance of missing.
I thought the Undertow was gonna hit, but it didn't.
I mean, he was trying to hedge his bets. He wanted to get out alive. If he had just stayed in front of Malface, he would have died, guaranteed, because he would have had to walk like all the way into the turret, but he would have also got the kill guaranteed. That way he dies and doesn't get the kill. It's the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, Malface once again setting himself up to be a huge hard carry.
Yeah, and on such a just completely different playstyle too. Went from Fizz to AP Kog'Maw. There's very few bridges that can cross that sort of gap.
Definitely a very excessive difference.
That is some neato basing animation right there. Hook a little bit wide from Kess. However, Cluzio walks right up into play range for him, and he's going to get condemned. Not quite stunned, though, and that's going to be pretty darn key, as Cluzio is still able to put out some good damage here. Drop the exhaust as well. Malala will get the kill, but he's going to trade 1-for-1. Probably regretting that condemn. If he had waited a moment longer, he might have been able to get it. But Sprinkles gets the 1-for-1. I mean, the 1v1. That just looked easy.
Sprinkles has that Trinity Force now, whereas Bayside's still sitting on a Bammy Cinder.
Aqua Blue is coming in. Ping only doesn't realize that this is no longer a 1v1, and he's going to get chomped down on by some Venomous Fangs. As Kess continues to defend this outer turret, he does not want it to go down. He's taking a good amount of damage in the process. Things are tense. Alright, turret falls.
He has opted to back off. See, Ryan Boy is taking that red buff in the jungle. And there goes the middle turret.
Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, iPing only had a pretty good performance in the Victor last game, but this time around, maybe he's just thrown off by the oddity that is AP Kog'Maw. His laning just hasn't been as strong. Ryan Boy is trying desperately to translate this into a kill, but Malface is on a rampage. The Sprinkles may have extended a little bit farther than he can handle up here, but he's got quite a bit of healing, and he'll make it take a long time and be painful. But in the end, he does go down. Still, though, 12-5 in kills and a 6k gold lead for NYU V2.
It's definitely a pretty significant margin.
Particularly considering how far we're into the game. Like, 15 minutes in, 6k gold difference with a Vayne? Like, with a late game... With 2 late game carries, really? I mean, AP Kog'Maw isn't quite as late game as AD, but still. That's a victory just waiting to happen. Like, you've got to screw that up something fierce to lose from this point.
Absolutely. Noel is still doing really well at keeping up, and CS actually a little bit ahead.
Clarizio once again just isn't respecting Kess's thresh enough. Walks up within flay range, gets pulled back into the hook. Now Bayside teleporting in. I don't know if there's all that much he can do. Nice taunt onto Malala. That's into the undertow, and he brings down the Vayne. There we go. I should not have underestimated the Shen. Bayside making up for that laning phase as much as he can. We'll see if it's enough.
Ryan Boy has been down there 3 times. Every single time basically has resulted in a gank, but that's primarily because Malala is diving really deep.
Yeah, Malala is playing fast and loose this game. It might just be a matter of, like, not respecting the opponents as much as they did last time around, you know? Like, they're picking AP Kog'Maw mid, they're picking Vayne AD carry and diving for kills. And they're still doing alright with it. Ping only nearly going down. One more ult comes out. Malphite is unstoppable, and he ghosts away from the Chaos Storm. Can he ghost away from Ryan Boy, though? Ryan Boy's going to get locked up in a cage. Oh, no. Even during Ragnarok, you can't be stopped. But that the flash in. Clarizio doesn't land the Soul Flare, though. Malphite is still outputting damage. And this is a dangerous, dangerous character to chase, especially with Sprinkles there to kite. Aqua Blue, though, is going to get taunted up as soon as he joins the fight. Fiesta Bayside coming in off the back of his Stand United. Now Sprinkles is going to be the next to fall if they can only catch up with him. The Boomerang Blade gets a double kill. Sweet Pete coming up big.
Sprinkles almost getting away, but Boomerang Blade does a lot of damage if it hits you with nothing in the way.
Yeah, and Sweet Pete is the bastion of hope for Fiesta right now. He's doing just fine in terms of CS. He's about even with the Vayne, which isn't great. He generally should be ahead in that lane, but it's okay. And he's 3-0-3. He's doing much, much better than he did last game. And I feel like he's just playing a little more confidently as well.
Absolutely.
Oh man, that basic animation is so cool. Oh, here's some of that confident play. Sweet Pete popping the ulti to charge after Malala, but might have been a little overconfident there as Malala takes a lantern to safety.
Cass has got Malala's back.
As he always seems to. And Dragon will be with us on the Rift in just about a minute. We'll see which one that is, actually. Let's take a gander down there. It's an Ocean Drake, so very arguably the most powerful for this point in the game. I think that'll be a pretty darn big point of contention between these teams. As just as an update, it was the Trinity Force that Sprinkles was going for, which makes a lot of sense. Low cooldowns and just pretty much every single stat on there is usable by Yorick. Clarizio is in a goddamn shooting gallery right now. Malphite has pretty good aim. There it is. He's dominating.
Uh-oh. Lol, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, he's going to turn it on to Sweet Pete. There's the stun against the wall. It wasn't spell shielded. He should have.
Oh my god, I can't believe he lived.
Yeah, Sweet Pete have been able to predict that spell shield, that condemn. He might have been able to survive there, and they could have had themselves a really good play, but now everything's just gone to pieces. Meanwhile, Sprinkles, though. Bayside, I mean, he's never really been able to contest this guy, but now it's even worse. I mean, they don't hurt each other anymore, but Sprinkles kills turrets, so he comes out on top.
Definitely has the huge lead currently.
Oh, that's a lot of damage on a Cass. They don't have a big minion wave. This might be a little bit of an overconfident push. But there's not much that can be used to punish them right now.
Drake is live, and we got Baron coming up in 50 seconds.
It's true. I think it's the right call here for NYU to back off and go do Dragon. It's an Ocean Drake. It's super valuable. And they've got the advantage right now, especially with Ping Only and Ryan Boy both going top lane. Yeah, if you look at the map right now, NYU is backing over to that Drake. This is basically theirs. They don't have a lot of damage on it, though. Vayne did go back to base. But Ryan Boy is still preoccupied top lane, so...
Oh, Malphite's opting to flash. He's gonna
Sweet Pete's gonna try and chase after him, but they just don't have the heart. There's nobody else behind him.
Even with On the Hunt, it would be hard to catch a ghosting Kog'Maw.
That's quite true. Oh man,
Jesus.
One more has to land, and Malphite is legendary. Those I believe they got the same treatment as what is it, Jinx ulti, and they execute low health enemies now. They do less base damage, but they execute when someone's low in health, which is one of the reasons why Kog'Maw kind of fell out of favor as AP Cog. Because it used to be, as you can see what he's trying to do right now, you could poke people out from a distance, basically unassailably. He still does a ton of damage, he just has to land some of his other abilities first. He can't do it all with his ulti.
Well, he's finished the Archangel staff, so he is going to slowly increase that mana pool, and when he gets the Seraph's Embrace, it's going to be even more mana.
I mean, honestly, given how far ahead he is, he's doing enough damage even with the ult charges on people on full health, which really is worrying for Fiesta, because if anybody's below half and Malphite lands even just 1 or 2 ults, they're probably dead. It's just such constant pressure here. They're going to shove in onto the secondary turret. Sprinkles have to teleport up soon enough, so after taking this down, they can send him to a side lane to push. And there's no real easy answer to this. Engaging is so very difficult against the amount of poke that the AP Kog'Maw is putting out. They have to act really quickly.
Magic to this currently, so whenever he eats one of those barrages from Malphite, he just takes a huge chunk of damage.
Oh man. Okay, Malphite is legendary. This man's Kog'Maw aim is on point. Oh, there's the flash in on Malphite though. They're going for the engage, and that is an instant shutdown onto the Kog'Maw. Okay, Kess is dropping decently low, but the next target is Malala, but Ryan Boy can't quite stick to him long enough, and Fiesta Bayside's going to get stunned up against the wall, shut down as the Silver Procs land. There's a double kill for the Vayne, and with one carry out of the picture, the other one takes up the mantle. And that is a ace for NYU.
That was a very nice pick on the Malphite, but
they could really have used a Victor in that fight, is the problem. It was the right call to catch Malphite out and charge them down. But they had to do it while Ping Only was still alive. They had to do it before Malphite was able to kill anybody.
It's an increasingly tall order at this rate.
Oh yeah. And it's only going to be more difficult now. It's like, with a Vayne Kog'Maw, Baron is a real option. And they've got the free pressure in mid lane. Vayne Kog'Maw at least, no less. They can chunk that thing down.
As a Baron that is just waiting to basically die at around the 25-minute mark, I imagine.
Admittedly, AP Kog'Maw doesn't kill it quite as quickly, but it's still pretty good. So vision control is imperative, I think, on the top side of the map now, for both teams, really. But particularly Fiesta.
AP Kog'Maw, Malphite now has a Void Staff.
Yeah. Magic penetration. Percentage magic penetration is a little less useful against a team that's only built 2 minor magic resistance items, but honestly, he could build pretty much anything AP related at this point, and he'd be just fine, because he's a full item ahead of his opponents. It doesn't really matter the efficiency of that item if they aren't even matching it with anything.
As they build magic resistance, it's slowly going to not matter as much, basically.
It's definitely a good choice. It just, I don't know, maybe the pieces of a Death Cap might have served him a little better, but one way or another, it's strong. Sprinkles is going to be locking Ryan Boy in a nice little meat cube with him. Isn't that a wonderful image? And it looks like it's the push top lane. And this is something that I, again, have to kind of criticize NYU for. Sprinkles has teleport available. He's on a powerful split-pushing champion, and they've got a really difficult to engage on composition overall. So I don't see why they're not sending Yorick to, like, the bottom lane or something and going for this push up here with the 4 members strong. Because Yorick isn't accomplishing too much right now. He's getting some damage on the turret and kind of looking scary. But we have the engage from Ryan Boy. I guess he's around to try and stop that, as Fiesta Bayside is going to get hooked backwards as well. And I think all of the hopes of Fiesta Esports were in that last engage. That was a beautiful hook right there. That was delicious. Ping Only's going to go down as well. That's another ace. And 2 aces is 2 aces too many for Fiesta to survive.
That is most likely going to be the end of the game. A valiant effort by Fiesta Esports.
Yeah.
With some substitutes.
And a very entertaining series to watch for sure. Some interesting picks and some interesting plays. But that's going to be it for us for the night. New York University versus Fiesta Esports. Any parting thoughts, Effect?
Not too much. That was a very interesting game. Don't see a whole lot of AP Kog'Maw, but Malphite pulled it off with, flying colors, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And as we get them up on screen, I would just like to give a shout out to our sponsors. There is, of course, Vibby right now, and that is an app on which you can clip, share, and discuss the best gaming moments. And another app, LOL History app, which will allow you to look up summoners in-game from your phonular device. Use those, folks. They are wonderful for sponsoring us and very good services. Of course, we are Reverie Esports. My name is Octavian. I am joined by Effect Effects. And we will be back next week, Saturday, this time, this place. Click that follow button if you want to join us. You all have a great night, folks.
See you guys next week, guys.